Today, we are going to show you how to initiate, edit, and submit a payment request and progress report in the Department of Ecology Grant and Loan Management System, EAGL IGX. To begin, log in to the EAGL IGX system. Visit the Ecology webpage for instructions on how to log in or register in EAGL IGX. From the dashboard landing page or home page, we'll select Search in the top navigation bar to search for that application and locate the agreement. Select Searches, and then select Applications. It is important to note that your last search will remain, so it is best to select Clear before using the filters. You can also choose not to enter any information in the filters and select the search button, and all the agreements you are assigned to will return in the results. Select the link under the name column, open the agreement, and go to the Agreement Signed Documents and Dates form. This is where you would upload your signed agreement. It is important to review all of the terms and conditions, especially the task's scope of work, deliverables, and the budget before completing a payment request. You should also review the administrative requirements for recipients of ecology grants and loans in the Yellow Book to determine eligible costs. The link is to Ecology's webpage location. Also note that you are required to upload supporting documentation for each expenditure and match reported. Organize your backup documents in an electronic file before you begin, so uploading them will be easier. We will show you how you can upload them individually or as a zip file in just a minute. To initiate a PRPR, the parent document must be in the Agreement Executed, Agreement Active, Amendment Executed, Amendment Requested, or Amendment Request Approved status. Although PRPRs can be initiated during the Agreement Executed status, the PRPR may not be submitted by the recipient until the parent document reaches the Agreement Active status. There is no restriction on the number of PRPRs that may be associated with a parent document, but only one PRPR can be in process or under review at a time. This means that you cannot initiate a PRPR unless all other PRPRs for the parent document are in one of the following statuses: Payment Request, Progress Report Canceled, Payment Request, Progress Report Approved, or Payment Request, Progress Report Active. The general terms and conditions require that a recipient must, at a minimum, submit a quarterly progress report. Please review your agreement or consult your Ecology Financial Manager to determine if a more frequent reporting period is required. The progress report is to communicate updates and any changes about the project with your grant manager. To initiate a PRPR, you must be in the role of either a recipient project manager, a recipient financial officer, or an authorized official. There are two ways to initiate a payment request progress report. From the Agreement left navigation bar, you can select Initiate Related Documents. Under Available Documents, select the quarter that the dates of cost incurred for their expenditure. The date of cost incurred is the date the purchase item was received or the date work was performed. We can also initiate the PRPR from the My Task panel on the dashboard. On my dashboard, I would select Initiate Related Document from the My Tasks panel. And I can either choose my parent document here or put in that parent document identifier. Under Available Documents, I would select the quarter that the dates of cost incurred for their expenditure. Again, the date of cost incurred is the date the purchased item was received or the date work was performed. I would then select Create to initiate that PRPR. I would then receive a confirmation message giving me information about the PRPR that I'm about to initiate. I could then either cancel or proceed to continue. Now that we're in our payment request and progress report, let's take a look at our left side navigation bar. To start with, we have our guidance documents, which are the federal projects only suspension and debarment instructions, and the Form D contractor participation report instructions. We then have our payment request and progress report forms, which are the payment request itself, the payment history form, Form D, the contractor participation report, the progress report and mapping information, payment request progress report modification comments, and payment library. Scrolling down, we also have document tools, including a link back to the landing page, add edit people, status history, attachment repository, modification summary, document validation, print document, and document messages. You also have the status options for payment request progress report submitted and payment request progress report canceled. Let's now access and complete the payment request form. Only the users assigned to this document in the role of authorized official and recipient financial officer can edit this form. All fields marked with a red asterisk are required. Select Save without filling out any information to see the error checks that will prevent this form from letting your document go to another status. Let's now look at the fields of this form more closely. The payment request number is auto-generated by the system. There is an option for final. If this is the final payment, select yes. If not, then select no. The billing period start date is auto-generated and will be populated with the earliest date incurred start that was entered in an expenditure line. The billing period end date is where you would enter the last date of costs incurred. The date of cost incurred is the date a purchased item was received or the date work was performed. In cumulative expenditures entered, the system will auto-calculate this amount based on the total expenditures entered. With cumulative expenditures approved, the system will auto-calculate the expenditures approved by Ecology. Ecology Project Manager approval will be completed by your Ecology Grant Manager when they review your payment. You will be asked, did you have expenditures to report? Select yes if you have expenditures to report, and the first expenditure line will appear. Select no if you want to just complete the progress report. A payment request cannot be submitted without a progress report. A progress report can be submitted without a payment request. So let's say you select yes to do you have an expenditure to report. Keep in mind that despite this demonstration, the period end date cannot exceed the final date of the last PRPR month. For example, if the PRPR is for January through March, then the billing period end date cannot be after March 31st. So now I have filled out the top part of my payment request form. I have selected yes that I have expenditures to report, and I've hit save. That's gotten rid of the error checks related to the top part of that payment request form, and it's brought up error checks about these expenditures. And it's important to note that underneath these instructions for the payment request, there are 3 links that you can use. Expenditure is the link to the page we are on currently where the expenditure line items can be entered. Uploads is the location where the documents that support each expenditure line item are uploaded. And Download Expenditure Report is an Excel download that can be generated from here showing the information entered on the form. Let's now complete an expenditure line item, and I'll give descriptions of each field as we go, as we fill out these fields. The item number is a unique identifier assigned by the system to each expenditure line item that's entered. The detail number is a unique identifier for each expenditure line assigned by the system. Funding distribution is a drop-down list of the different funding sources assigned to the agreement. Task title is a drop-down list of tasks identified from their associated scope of work forms. Item category is a drop-down list where you would choose the category for this expenditure line item. Salaries would be a monetary amount that an employer agrees to pay the employee for their employment. Benefits would be the cost of employment fees or taxes required by law and paid by the employer, such as Social Security, Medicare, pension or retirement, health insurance, state industrial insurance, and unemployment insurance. Contracts are a person or company hired under contract to provide material or labor to perform a service or do a job in support of the project. Goods and services are items that are tangible, like computers, pens, ice for sampling, and safety hats. Services are activities provided by individuals like computer repair, software subscriptions, cleaning services, or catering. Travel would include airplane, ferry, car rental, and must follow state per diem rates. Equipment would be tangible, personal property having a useful life of more than 1 year and an acquisition cost of $10,000 or more per functional unit or system. Ancillary costs, for example, the installation, can be included in the cost. Property is the purchase of land and the building of other improvements on it. Overhead and indirect are business or operational costs incurred for a common purpose and not directly connected with a specific project. Indirect costs include costs incurred by the recipient and may include costs incurred by others who supply goods, services, or facilities to the recipient, such as utilities for a facility used for both project-related and non-project-related recipient activities, maintaining a department that provides services to a project as well as other recipient activities, such as a warehouse or mailroom, or supervisory staff or management who oversee project activities and other non-project related recipient activities. Finally, other is an expenditure not described in other categories. Item description is where you would give a detailed description of the expenditure, for example, ice for sampling or a spills response trailer. The payee is the person or entity whom money is paid or is to be paid. The invoice number is a unique identifier for a specific invoice created by the business that issued it. The date of cost incurred start is the earliest expenditure date a service was performed or a purchased item was received. The date of cost incurred end is the latest expenditure date a service was performed or a purchased item was received. The amount is the expenditure amount before match, if any, is applied. The expenditure type can include cash, in-kind interlocal, or in-kind other. If your agreement does not have match or does not allow for in-kind interlocal or in-kind match, it will not be listed in the expenditure type dropdown. Approved, denied, or modified is completed during ecology review. Authorized amount would be completed during ecology review. And comment would be completed during the ecology review if expenditures are denied or modified. Last updated by is where the system generates the name of the last person to edit the expenditure line. Last updated is where the system generates the time the last person edits the expenditure line. You also have the ability to add a row. And this would create a second expenditure line. I'll now fill out this second expenditure line, and I'll choose a task associated with the second fund source. If I wanted, I could also choose to add one more additional row. But if I decided I did not need this row after I've added it to my form, I can check this box next to the row and then select Delete Rows in the upper right corner. I can then save the form and resolve any error checks that remain. Once I have filled out the information for my expenditures, I can then go to Uploads as one of those 3 links under the instructions. This will take me to the part of my payment request where I can upload backup documentation. I would enter in the name of that document, and I can choose to either upload a single document or a zip file. The file size limit is 200 megabytes, and the usual document formats such as DocX, PDF, or Excel spreadsheet formatted documents would be able to be uploaded to the system. I can then hit upload here, and I see that that document has now been added to my backup documentation. From these 3 links at the top, I can choose to download the expenditures report. This would generate a report for me with the information for my expenditures, including all those columns that I had just filled in. It may be helpful to send this report to any fiscal users so they know to expect a payment. If we select the document information number link, this would take us back to the landing page for our payment request progress report. If we select the parent information, this will return us to the original agreement that generated this PRPR. So I'll select the name of that PRPR to go back to this landing page. I can then go to my left navigation bar and select Payment History to go into the Payment History form. In Payment History, I'll want to review the columns in the expenditure and disbursement tables. No data is entered on this form. Users would just review it and save it. The table and disbursement history will update when the payment is approved by Ecology. After the first payment is approved, it might be helpful to visit the history form first before processing the next payment so you know the budget you are working with. Let's now go back to our left navigation bar and select Form D. Just as a reminder, there are instructions on how to fill out Form D under the Guidance section in the left navigation bar here. If we scroll down and start filling out this form, we can select Yes or No for does this payment request include reimbursements for any private sector contractor or subcontractor? You would select No if you have no expenditures to report for this PRPR or if you have no private subcontractor or contractor expenditures being submitted for the period. If we select Yes, you would then have information to fill out here for the contractor. I would fill out the contractor name. I could choose the contractor type, whether primary or sub. Enter in the contractor address and their phone number. I would then select the contractor amount in this request and what the expense category will be, whether construction, supplies, services, or equipment. Continuing to the right, I could then choose the certification type, either minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise, or not any, indicating this is not a minority, women, or disadvantaged enterprise. If I keep scrolling down, I can see Form D column descriptions that go into detail about which information is supposed to be entered into which column on this form. But if I enter in my information and then hit Save, that will then preserve that contractor information. Let's now navigate to the progress report and mapping information form. Only the authorized official and the recipient project manager roles can edit this form. Fields marked with a red asterisk are required. As we continue down, we can see the by task progress table. All fields in this table must be completed. The percent complete reporting should not be a cumulative total, just the specific percent this reporting period. There will also be other fields to fill out that are not required, such as description and reasons for a delay if a delay has occurred, a description and reasons area for cost overruns if overruns have occurred, a section for general comments, then a section for Ecology to leave their own comments. You would also be able to upload supporting documentation. This can include documentation like a picture of the project. You would then be able to use the mapping information tool to update your project area. Before we use the mapping tool, I'm going to save my form and then select Add Modify Locations. Once I'm in this mapping tool, I can choose to define my project area. Once I have it, it'll calculate the statistics for that area. Once I have all that information gathered together, I can review it and then choose to either return to the map to update my project area or to submit these results for my project area. Once my results have been submitted, I can then choose to return to EAGL to go back to that payment request progress report form. It's important to note that there may be some programs like water quality that will have additional metrics that need to be completed on this form. Let's now review the payment request progress report modifications comments form. This form is completed by Ecology if a payment is returned for modifications. In the event this happens, then the authorized official, recipient financial manager, and recipient project manager assigned to the payment will receive a system notification, email notification, and task assignment. They should then access this form and read the Ecology comment field to see what actions need to be taken. Once the actions are complete, they should enter their comments, save the form, and change the status to application modification submitted. The payment library form, which we can see in our left navigation bar, is used by Ecology Fiscal Office to record encumbrance information. You will not need to view or edit this form. Let's now go back to the main landing page of our PRPR. And we will now try to change the status of this payment to payment request progress report submitted. In our left navigation bar, we can select that status option. It will then confirm that we do want to change the status of this PRPR from in process to submitted. Once you've read this attestation and want to change the status, select OK. Do not add a note in this field as it will not be viewed by Ecology. After viewing that attestation statement and selecting OK, the PRPR will refresh and confirm that it is now in the submitted status. You will receive an email notification that the payment was submitted. If you accidentally hit Payment Request Progress Report Canceled, do not start a new payment. Instead, put in a support request or contact your Ecology Grant Manager so they can work with EAGL support to correct that situation. Once the status is changed to Payment Request Progress Report Submitted, your Ecology Grant Manager receives an email notification and task assignment to review and process that payment. Once their review is complete and they have changed the status to Payment Request Progress Report Approved, the Ecology Fiscal Office will then review and encumber the payment, then change the status to active. The authorized official, recipient financial manager, and recipient project manager assigned to the payment will receive system notification and email notification once a payment is moved to active status. The payment should post to their account within 3 business days. You should be able to find existing PRPRs by either browsing through your My Tasks panel and locating the title of those PRPRs, or by accessing searches from your top navigation bar, going to Reports and Payment Requests, and putting in the information for the PRPR that you want to find. In this case, I'll choose to search for a specific type of PRPR. And when I hit search, I see those results displayed below here in the Documents table. I would then be able to choose whichever PRPR I want to access. You can also navigate to the existing PRPR by going to Related Documents in the parent document, selecting the option for Payment Request, and then selecting the title of that PRPR. Once you do, you'll be taken to that PRPR's landing page.